Hear a guitar on an acoustic guitar. Does everybody here play acoustic? Okay. So when you hit a note, you hear it, it'll ring out, and then usually it'll drop off. With the V-Class design, it'll be more linear. It'll just slowly decay over time. I mean, it'll go for like 10, 15 seconds. So, you guys ready? Can you hear it back there? All right. Now I'm going to the high E on the 12th fret. Now I'm going to go all the way up to the B note. Okay? And it's the same volume as the open E. A lot of people don't play up here because these notes don't ring out. Right? When you hear these notes, they're really full. Right? And they put out good volume on the guitar. Yep. Okay? A lot of people who buy Taylors, they always come with cutaways and electronics. Like, you can actually really utilize these notes acoustically and when you're playing with other people. Right? It's hard to go, oh, that guitar's louder, just because it has V-Class bracing on there. And when you play with other people, you really notice how the volume projection on the guitar cuts through, even with a grand auditorium body like this. If you play with other people who play with jumbos and dreadnoughts, you can really play along with those people on the guitar. All right. So it's always good if you really want to demo as far as the volume component of V-Class bracing, play with other people so you can really hear it cut through. Okay. Now there's a third component about V-Class is the improvement of in-tuneness or improvement of intonation. What, you laugh because it kind of sounds funny? We started saying intonation, but when people think of intonation, they always think of the compensation of the frets, right? But you also have to remember that the top of the guitar is like the speaker, so it translates what the strings is producing. And that's the part that changed. When you have a different bracing pattern, the top moves a little bit different. And with the X-Brace design, you can almost think like there's certain quadrants that are moving in between the brace tone bars, and they're moving independently of each other. So I always think about it as like a pool, and everybody jumps in the pool, and there's all these waves everywhere, right? And they're all moving independently of each other. And so sometimes you'll tune your guitar. So imagine you get your acoustic out, you tune it up, you play G chords in tune, like, oh, that sounds really nice. And then you'll play a D chord, and it'll sound slightly out of tune. You ever experienced that before? Like that second string is out of tune. It's like, well, why is that? I just tuned my guitar, right? It should be tuned. Maybe I retune my guitar. No, it's in tune. And you play that D chord, and it sounds out of tune again. And what's going on is the certain parts at the top that's moving independently of each other sound slightly out of phase. You call it warbling or beating. You'll play a chord, go, wah, 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 wah. And it's like, that's a problem? I didn't know that, right? Because I've been playing acoustic guitar for 20 years. I didn't think that was a problem. That was just the way it is, right? And I just accepted it. And what we do as musicians, or as human beings, we adjust. And we just keep on going. So when I would tune my guitar and I got to that B string, I'd fret that third string, that D, and tune it to the open D. Because I know if I play that D chord, I want it to be perfectly in tune. And I'd do that with the high E too. I'd fret the third string, which is the G note, and tune it to the open G. All right, does anybody do that? Or am I the only one? Okay. Thanks. Thought that was the only weird one. All right. Oh, the other thing is, like, remember the first time you ever played a G chord? Right? Like that? I don't play a G chord like that. I take those thirds out, right? I mute that fifth string, right? And then I'll add a D to that chord. That's how you play a G chord. Right? Because it didn't always sound that great. Okay, so that's what we kind of do as musicians. Maybe not everybody, but I see it out there a lot. And with the V class, with it being kind of stable down the center, okay, Andy wanted the top to rotate, rock back and forth like a teeter-totter. So when notes come off to you, the audience, or to my ears, they all come off at the same time, so that warbling, that beating that you hear does not exist anymore. So when you tune your guitar, play a G chord, it's in tune. Play a D, it's in tune. Right? I'm just kind of going through all the chord variations. I mean, if the E sounds good, the C can't sound good. Okay? See, I can't even play a G chord like that. There you go. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so it's just, what it kind of does, it opens up to kind of relearning the guitar, the acoustic guitar again. Doing things you normally wouldn't be doing anymore. Even if you play way up here, you know, we're on the 12th fret. Every sound's in tune, right? I can add the E here, the A. No beating at all. Just sounds nice. All right? You guys hear that out there? I told them I didn't want to mic it up. I just wanted to play it acoustically, so you don't think it's like Matt EQing it to sound a certain way or throwing mojo at you. Okay? I'm going to get Brian up here. He's going to help me play some guitar. So we started doing V class last year in our grand auditoriums, right? So an 814 CE, a 314 CE. So if it ends in a 4, and if it has a black graphite nut, it signifies that it has V class bracing in it. And also it has a different label that has Andy Power's signature in there as well, instead of Bob Taylor's.
What model was that you were playing, just out of curiosity?
That was the Builder's Edition K14 CE. That's a great question, man. So the Builder's Edition is what we call the director's cut, like what Andy Powers wants. So like I was saying, when he thinks about building a guitar, he's like, what's the guitar going to sound like, right? So it has V-class brace in it. And then what's the guitar going to look and feel like? So this has that second component to the guitar. So this guitar is a grand auditorium with koa back and sides. It has a torrefied spruce top on it. So torrefaction is a roasting process that's been used in wood industry for many, many years. And for the guitar industry side, it's kind of like an aging process to make the guitar sound like the top is 50, 60 years old, right? So it's basically what you do is you take all these Sitka spruce tops, you put it in a pressurized chamber, high heat, high pressure, take some of the oxygen out so you don't burn it. And it's a drying cycle, so it's not like, oh, put it in there for 5 hours at this temperature. No, it's just the pressure and the temperature changes depending on how we want to do it. I really don't know the specifics on it. But it takes out a lot of the bound water, the water that's bound to the cellulose structure, some of the extractives. And if you've ever played an older instrument, right, there's a little bit more volume. The response of the notes that come off the top is faster. It just sounds like a great guitar. And you can do that you can put it on a new guitar and it kind of gives those aspects to an older top. And it also darkens the top too, right? It doesn't have this light color. It's a little bit darker right out of the gate. Okay, so It also has a new type of satin finish called a silent satin finish, because Andy Powers, he records and plays out, and when he starts sweating on the guitar, on glossy guitars, they start making noises and squeaking. So they didn't want that to happen. Right? Really cool. Never would have thought of it, but you know, I'm not a professional player either. It has this little armrest bevel, which kind of makes it really comfortable, but also gets your arm in the right spot to hit the strings. Doesn't, you know, if you play bigger guitars, it kind of shifts your arm back and plays by the bridge, gives you kind of a tinier sound. So it's a lot more comfortable, gives you right where you want to play the guitars. And there's also another little cutaway here on the bevel on the cutaway here. Because now that you have V class, you can play these notes up here. And when you start getting up to these higher notes, your pinky runs into the corner here. So having it beveled out, you can actually hit it. And your pinky is not going to run into the side, which is cool, right? Strap pin move from the heel to the back to also make it really comfortable. There's a lot of things, right? You're like, oh my God, I should not ask that question, and I apologize, but you asked it.
No, thank you. I'm just gonna have to look up tour faction later when I get home, or whatever it was.
Yeah. All right. And so so this is the Builder's Edition, right? This is Koa. There's also a maple version up top, right there too. All right. So grand concerts, that's the next thing that's up. So last year we did only grand auditoriums, and this year now we're starting to integrate V-Class into our other body shapes. And grand auditorium is by far our most popular body shape, but the next one is our grand concert, so it only makes sense to put them in our grand concert body shapes. And what Brian has here is our 800 series grand concert, which is rosewood back and sides, spruce top. And we're going to compare it with a mahogany with a cedar top so you can hear the differences. And, you know, has the same properties of what you expect out of V-Class bracing, and it's just on a smaller body shape. Just rings out, right? Okay, so let's quickly hear the mahogany cedar version. Okay, do you hear it sound a little bit different? Maybe go back to this one, you hear the tone expand. Okay, you guys hear the difference between it? So the rosewood spruce is a very popular tone wood combination. I mean, for Taylor, we dedicate 4 series to rosewood spruce. You know, we have a 400 series, a 700 that has Lut spruce and rosewood back and sides, 800 and 900 series. So you can tell we love rosewood. Like I always tell people, like if you don't have a rosewood guitar, then you know you don't have a collection, right? How many people on their car stereo, right? They hit the tone knob, they increase the bass and the treble. How many people do that on their car stereo? That's basically shaping rosewood, right? With the mid-range scoop on there. So in general, you know, rosewood's great for a lot of different playing styles. We always talk about singer-songwriters because of that mid-range scoop. But if you're just looking for something with a wide tonal range, rosewood's kind of like the way to go. Mahogany on the other end has a little bit more balanced tone, kind of pushes the mid-range a little bit, which is great for finger picking and things like that. So why don't you fingerstyle these 2 guitars so we can hear the difference between those. Okay. So on this guitar, I kind of heard the melody notes kind of pop out a little bit more in the front, right? And so this one has a cedar top on it instead of a Sitka spruce. So cedar is a little more delicate, right? It responds with a lighter touch, gives you more volume with less effort. So when you finger pick the guitar, it seems like it gets louder compared to a spruce top. But if you start strumming the guitar, there will be a limit to how much volume you get out of cedar. It'll actually stop its volume. Where spruce, you know, you can just strum on it all day. And it's really the body shape that's going to limit the volume, not you. You put it on a big jumbo guitar or a Grand Symphony Taylor, you can sit there and drive that thing, and it's just going to go right with you. Right? Like everybody likes Adirondack spruce. It's a little bit stiffer than Sitka spruce and gives you more volume than that. Okay? So there's another thing about our grand concerts is also where the neck is placed. We also provide 12th fret guitars, and it's gained a lot of popularity in the past 10 years. And what I'm talking about today is actually where the neck attaches to the body. Modern guitars have necks attached on the 14th fret. And before cutaways, people wanted more access to the fretboard. So what they do, they moved it up 2 frets. And now guitars are 14th fret guitars. And so this one's a 12th fret. You can see the neck's attached on the 12th fret right there. You can see the difference. And what I want you to focus on is the ebony bridge, right? The black ebony bridge in relation to the sound hole. This one's a lot farther away, right? And that changes the way the guitar sounds. These are both 800 series, they're both rosewood spruce top. Let's see if we can hear a difference. Okay, you guys hear the difference a little bit? Go back to this one and I guess try some strumming.
Sure.
Okay, now go to the 12th fret. So what do you guys hear differently on the 12th fret? You're supposed to hear a little more warmth out of the guitar, right? This is a little more balanced, have a little more treble presence to it. More percussive. More percussive, yeah.
I was going to say a little bit more Dan Fogelberg is what it sounded like to me.
Okay.
That's just my,
Is that must be a good thing for you then?
Yeah.
All right. So when I was talking about the armrest, I was talking about how bigger guitars you might tend to strum closer to the bridge. When you strum closer to the bridge, it has a bright tinny sound, and then when you move up closer to the sound hole, it warms up a little bit. So why don't you kind of do that? Play by the bridge. All right, now play in the sound hole. See how it warmed up a little bit by just moving where you hit the strings? So when you're playing a 14th fret guitar and you say you play right here by the sound hole, right, and then you pick up a 12th fret, the whole neck system moves down about an inch, inch and a half. So it's like moving it up farther away from the saddle, right? So that it warms up the sound of your guitar. It also is, with the 12th fret, it's right in the middle of the speaker of the guitar too, when you move it down. So it's kind of like in the sweet spot. So those two aspects totally change the sound of your guitar. And, you know, there's really no wrong answer which one you like, but most people tend to like the 12th fret because most people play at their house and just strum their guitar and they like the smaller body because it's comfortable. They can wrap their arms around it, or they can sit lazy on their couch, slump over, right? Get the foot on the coffee table, and it's comfortable to play. Because of the 12 fret aspect, it gives you a warmer sound, so it has all the components of just that goodness of an acoustic guitar, right? In my 20s, like, I want to play loud. I need to get a big guitar. And now I'm like, you know what? I don't play out as much. I just want to relax, write songs, play some covers, and I want to be comfortable. And that's where the 12th fret comes in handy, right? If you're recording, right, maybe the 14th fret might be a little bit better because it's a little more balanced, and you can add all that warm goodness later if you wanted to, because it's always easier to add tone than take away tone when you're recording, right? So it might be more preference. If you're the rhythm acoustic guitar player in a full band, maybe the 14th fret might be better for that same aspect, right? Stay right in the acoustic tone of band. You don't need to be on the low end side where the bass player or whatever. Okay, so those are just some general tips why you would choose one guitar over the other, 14th fret or 12th fret. All right, any questions at this point? This has been going off. We doing good, guys? Okay. We're going to move on and talk about our Grand Pacific. I wanted to find this guitar. Why don't you tune this one up real quick? So we've been working on V-Class bracing for 5 years now. And again, when I was explaining V-Class, I was talking to Andy, when Andy was like, what's my next guitar going to be? It's like, well, maybe I need to look at assumptions. So the Grand Pacific was that changing of assumptions, changing the bracing, changing the body shape. Those were the things that he was experimenting with. And the first guitar he built with V-Class bracing was actually on our Dreadnought body. Okay, it still sits at our factory. I know where it is. Like, I'm jealous that it's in this guy's office and not mine, but it is what it is. And at that particular time also, Andy bought a house, and it was a fixer-upper. Because I remember we bought the houses the same year. He's like, "Are you fixing yours up?" I was like, "No, I'm on the road. I don't have time to sit around and fix up my house, and I'm not a carpenter. I have hardly any skills at all at doing that. I'd be very nervous to do anything like that." But when he was building his house, he'd put on these records that he heard when he would, hang out with his dad. So if you read about the Grand Pacific, the record he talks about is "Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" And so he was listening to that record, and he loves the guitar on that record. And it just so happened that it was a Gibson J45 that guitar came across his repair bench, and he actually had a chance to play that guitar. So he was playing the guitar with the record, and it didn't quite sound like what he heard on the record. And there's a couple reasons. One is, the guitar was sort of new, and now it's not. But the other thing is, if you ever record, there's a lot of things that happen between what you hear on this guitar that goes through the microphone, to the mixer, it gets compressed, it gets EQ'd, it gets mastered, and it's not even the same guitar sound anymore. But what he heard was a guitar that the notes were round and well seasoned, and he's like, that's what I want on my next guitar, is to produce a guitar that sounds like that. Okay? How many people own Taylors? Okay? Does that sound like a Taylor guitar to you? No. Okay? So what this does is it really shows how you can manipulate the tone of a guitar, the notes of the guitar, by the V-Class bracing and the body shape on it. And that's why I gave Brian the 814 CE, because that's kind of the quintessential Taylor guitar right there. If you want a Taylor guitar, an 814 CE is kind of the first step, the first place you stop on your Taylor journey. And when you think about a Taylor tone, right, the notes are very specific, almost kind of like tip of a spear, right? The notes are kind of digs in. I'm trying to figure out the word, but I'm totally lost on that. Well defined. Thank you. Well defined. The note, the tone of the guitar is very balanced, right? You can almost say it has a bright tone to it, right? But it's a balanced tone. You can hear when you hear strum a chord, you can hear every note in that chord. Okay, so it almost sounds like a piano. Like I was saying about the record on the Grand Pacific, he wanted the notes to be really round. He wanted them to blend in and have a well-seasoned sound. Okay, so he always compares it to like an organ. When you play an organ, you hear the notes and then they all blend together. And that's what he wanted to get out of the Grand Pacific. So we're going to demo these two guitars. They're both Rosewood guitars and see if we can hear the difference.
Circle.
There you go. Thank you. So you guys hear the difference? Here you can really hear the individual notes like that. The treble notes really ring out on this one. Really defined. And you go back to this one, it's totally different sounding.
I'll take that, right?
We're not going to stop you, man. What do you think,
I love
Brian?
this. I think they're great. I think it'd be good for recording. It's a good stage guitar for Americana roots rock stuff.
Okay, so here's a mahogany version. See, so the mahogany one does it for me. Do you want that one too?
No, I like the mahogany better.
Oh, you actually like the mahogany one better.
Justin wants the brochure.
Okay. So there's one other aspect about the Grand Pacific you're not going to see, and that's, we call it the puff of air. So a lot of times when you play big body guitars, jumbos, and dreadnoughts, and I do it too, is I'll tune it up, and I'll play an E chord, right? And you hear all that air movement, and people like that, right? And they go, whoa, that guitar is really loud. And you look at your buddy, and you're like, looking for, yeah, right? Yeah. Okay? But when you're demo guitars and when you're kind of choosing guitars, that's a big deal. But when you go into actually using the instrument, it kind of tends to be a deterrent. Okay? Think about recording, and when you do vocals, what do they put in front of your mouth? A windscreen, right? They're trying to get rid of that puff of air. Same thing with your recording a guitar. When you're recording the guitar, right, they're going to EQ that out. So it's not even in the guitar. You're not even going to be able to hear it in the recording. When you're playing on stage, that puff of air can cause feedback issues too. So when Andy designed these dreadnoughts, that puff of air that you hear and kind of enjoy is not going to be in this guitar. And so what he wants to do is build guitars that you can play on stage and record with. Okay? So when you're comparing these guitars, that is not going to be part of the buying checklist, that puff of air. It's still going to have a nice fundamental low note. By all means, it's going to be there. You're the one playing. You have the mic. So. Alright. So it has a nice low E. So So that's just one thing you guys need to realize, so that it's there. So if you're a player, it's a good thing not to have it in there. And it wasn't easy to do either. According to what Andy said, it was hard not to have that puff of air in there, but he wanted it not to be in there. So kind of check it out when you guys play guitar in like 10 minutes. So these are the 500 and the 700s, Grand Pacifics, are our Builder's Edition, and we're designating the Grand Pacific with a 7. So the 717 and a 517E. And it has similar things that the Builder's Edition K14 has, the silent satin finish. I didn't mention that all the edges have been chamfered off, rolled off on the guitar. But also these Grand Pacifics have a different neck profile, where it's actually a compound neck. Up here where you do your first position chords, it's a beefier, soft V neck. All right, so it fits in your palm really nicely when you're playing all these chords. But then when you start going up the neck and barring the guitar, and your thumb moves from the top to the back, it flattens out a little bit more on the back. So when you're barring on the guitar, you get the even pressure across the finger. Okay, and then on top of the frets, it's all been rolled off too, to make it a lot more comfortable if you want to roll your thumb over the guitar or anything like that. Okay, the heel of the guitar usually has a ridge on tailors that's been softened, right? And then the strap pins moved to the back too. Okay, so when you're playing up here, you don't have a strap pin digging in the palm of your hand. Okay, and then the last one is our 300 series. So this is not a Builder's Edition. It has the standard tailor neck, and you can see the ridge right there on the heel is there. But it has the same tone that the other two does. This is Sapelli back and sides, spruce top, and Sapelli's is like a mahogany substitute. Can you grab the case for these guitars? You like that one?
Yep.
So these Grand Pacifics, they're definitely a new sound for Taylor guitars, and if you love acoustic guitars, you definitely gotta try these B-class bracing guitars out, because it's totally different. I'm not saying that it's better than the guitars that you own, because there's definitely guitars that I own that I won't get rid of. But what it provides is something that you can't get on any other guitar with an X-Brace design. So there's these 3 models are the ones that we're coming out with, and we also have a new case for it. It's this Western floral pattern case that comes with all the Grand Pacifics. All right. Talk about the ultimate case close. I think we just sold them all tonight. Okay? And you can only get them on the Grand Pacifics. Any questions on these guitars? I'm going to talk about one more thing. Go ahead and grab that 717.
Mm-hmm. See which one you want here?
The rosewood one. We've been working hard on accessories the past year, and working with all the manufacturers of guitar straps, picks, cleaning supplies here in North America to come up with great looking products that will actually take elements from our guitars and match your guitar when you buy it. So you buy a guitar, it's like the days of buying a black guitar strap are over. Like, like I was getting ready to go on my trip, and I looked at it, it's like, all I have are black shirts and jeans. It's like, man, I'm boring. But it's just easy, right? I don't want to think about what I want to wear in the morning. I have to wear my Taylor shirt, and I'm just going to go for it. So we have all these new straps that we're introducing this year. And this is the Grand Pacific guitar strap. The concho on it, right? And it took elements from our guitar case, right in the middle. And if you look at it with the 717, it kind of all goes together, right? Okay. So it matches the case, it matches the binding on the outside, right? On the outside. On the guitar, we make one for the 300 series too, that's black on the outside, and this material is also black on the guitar. So that's easy for us, right? On our 500 series guitar, this is a 2.5 inch strap on that guitar. And what also, when I should probably pass it around. If you look at where the actual guitar attaches to the strap pins, there's the Taylor 2-point crown on there with the Taylor logo, and then there's an inlay on the headstock. It actually matches it on there. So on the 500 series, there's the Century inlay right there that matches the Century headstock inlay. And then on the outside, matches the binding, and then there's the second layer in the middle there, matches the cedar top, and then the centerpiece is supposed to match the mahogany on the back and sides. Okay, looks pretty good, right? And then we also have, even for like a 300 series, this is just suede that's been sanded. Can you see me? All right. They call it nubuck. Right? And it's suede on the inside so it doesn't move around on you. And it has the 300 series headstock inlay to match it. Pretty cool. Something new for you guys. All right? Like, hey, I can't buy a $5,000 guitar, but I can leave with something. Okay, so we're going to have Brian play a couple more things. And we also been looking at picks too. So we're going to be introducing 5 different type of pick materials, right? So the easiest way, besides buying a new guitar, to change the sound of what you're playing is your picks, right? How many people have their picks tonight? How many have more than one pick in their pocket? Uh-huh. Right? You're going to learn something tonight. So materials and thickness on picks dramatically change the sound of your guitar. You can play a pick that's super thin. Let me get one out real quick. This is 4.46 millimeter, 0.46 millimeters, right? Really thin. Hear this one. See if you can hear a difference. Oh, there you go. You guys hear the difference? All right. So we have picks that are made out of celluloid, and then we also have what we call Ultra Thermix picks. The Thermix Pros here. And we have 5 different materials where a celluloid pick would be a 1, which would be bright, and this Thermix Pro would be a 5, which is warm. Okay? So go back to this warm pick, Thermix Pro. And then we have these blue swirl picks, they're Thermix Ultras, and it's a composite. Couple different materials. This is going to add some chime back into this warmth here. So play it again real quick. Okay. This will sound like rosewood. Hear that chime come back in?
I dig that.
Okay. And then go back to the celluloid. And that got really bright. So that's the celluloid. I went right back. And they're all the picks the last 3 picks we played were all the same thickness. Right, that first pick was really thin, just to really drive in the point. All right, guys, hear the differences? Cool. Other things that we making, we have our own hardware now. Our 800 series guitars, like this one, has the smoke chrome hardware on there. You know, and so you can swap them out. The Taylor tuners they're $40, but we also make these Godot tuners, right? And it's all about gear ratios. Like on our GS Minis and 100, it's a 14-to-1 gear ratios. On our Taylor USA guitars, it's 18-to-1, and then on our really higher end like presentations and Koas and 900 series, we started using Godot's, which is 21-to-1 gear ratios. So it's all about like, oh, that's cool. No. This really tunes your guitar perfectly with these tuners. And this year we actually asked Godot to etch this Western floor pattern on the buttons of these tuners. Okay, and you can check those out. What else? So we have a bunch of different other things. We have, guitar polish, thing like that. But this is something we've been using in our factory for years, and we found out that this doesn't even exist on the market. It's satin guitar cleaner for guitars with satin finishes, like our Builder's Edition guitars, our 300 series guitars have a satin finish, right? And you kind of, if you ever own these guitars and it starts building up a waxy buildup where your arm is, right? You're like, oh man, that's forever ruined. Nope, right? You can get this and you can clean your satin guitars on there. So that is pretty cool. Everybody's more interested in the tuners than what I'm saying. That's all good. I'll tell you what will get your attention, free stuff. Should we do that? There you go. Well, thank you, Facebook land, everybody, for paying attention. I hope you learned something new. Please comment below if you have any questions, and Matt will answer them for you.